Okay guys, so today we're going to be going all the way back to 3rd grade and long division, but we're going to be doing it with polynomials. So before we write the steps out, we're going to do a long division problem alongside, and so that you guys can see that the process is exactly the same. So will you all write for me right now? 3 goes into 532. Okay. So we're going to be doing this problem as you write the steps, because the steps for long division with polynomials are actually the exact same as the steps for regular old long division. We just have to worry about a little bit different looking numbers. So what would I do first? In order to divide 532 by 3, what would I do first in long division, the way we learned it in 3rd grade?
3 divided by 5.
Okay, so 3 goes into 5 how many times? 1. So we take that and write the 1 on top, right? Okay, that's your first step of long division of polynomials. You're going to divide the first term of the dividend. Now that's a new vocabulary word. Divide the first term. Dividend is what's on the inside. So the dividend would be 532 in our example problem. It's what's on the inside. So you're going to divide the first term of the inside by the first term of the divisor, which is the smaller number outside. That's just to get you guys practicing good mathematic vocabulary. And we always write the answer on top, right? So that's basically all we did here. We divided 532 by 3, and we wrote the answer on, or 5 by 3, and then we wrote the answer on top. Okay, so that's all you have to do very first. So in going back to my example problem on the side, after I divided 5 by 3, then what do I do? Multiply what? The 3 and the 1, right? So I multiply the 3 and the 1, and where do I write that? Below the 5. So I multiply 3 times 1 and write it down below. That's step 2. You're going to multiply the term from 1. So we're going to multiply basically the top by the divisor and write the expression underneath. Okay? So we're going to multiply the top by what we're dividing by and write our expression underneath the bigger number. Alright, so after I multiply the 3 and the 1 and I write 3 underneath, then what do I do? Subtract. So we're going to subtract. 5 minus 3 gives me 2. So that's step 3. You're going to subtract. Now the thing you have to remember about subtracting, because we are working with polynomials, is that when we subtract something with a parentheses, what happens to everything inside the parentheses? So for example, if I have x plus 3 and I'm subtracting x plus 3, what happens inside the parentheses? We distribute the negative and all the signs change. So I just wrote that reminder, remember to change the signs. So we have to remember to change all of the signs, okay? So please make sure you write that down. That's probably the most important part of this entire process. Okay, so because we are going to be subtracting polynomials, all of the signs will actually change. So make sure that you change the signs of whatever it is we're subtracting. Okay? Okay, so we subtracted, and then what happens? We bring down the 3. So that is step 4, and in my typed out ones, I made a major typo. So make sure you write it down correctly. You're going to bring down the next term. Okay, so we just bring down the next one, whatever it is. Okay, and so then after we bring down the 3, then what do we do in this problem right here? We divide the 3 into 23. So we start all over again, right? So step 5 is to repeat steps 2 through 4 until you can't divide anymore. Okay, so you're going to repeat the whole process until you can't divide any more. Okay, so let's finish this problem and see what happens at the end. 3 goes into 23 how many times, guys? 7. And 3 times 7 gives me 21. So then I subtract, and I get 2. Bring down the 2. 3 goes into 22 how many times? Also 7, which is going to give me 21, with a remainder of 1. Who remembers, what do I do with the remainder? 0. We don't need to do it as a decimal. What can we write it as? A fraction. We put the 1 on top, and what goes underneath? The 3. So we can leave the whole thing as a fraction. Okay, and 1/3. So that is the final step 6. If there is a remainder, which happens quite often, write it as a fraction, remainder over divisor, so remainder over what's on the outside, and add it to the top. Okay, so if we end up with the remainder, just like in regular long division, just rewrite it as a fraction, remainder over divisor, and it just gets added to the top. Okay. Okay, so example 1. They have the whole thing already set up for us. So let's start with step 1. Step 1. Now the thing we have to remember about dividing these things is that basically we're only concerned about the first numbers. That's how we're going to get the numbers on top. So let's go ahead and get started. X goes into x squared how many times? What times x will give me x squared? X. So write x. X goes on top. Okay. Now step 2 said that we were supposed to multiply this term by the divisor. So I have to multiply x by the entire term x minus 4. Okay? So this x gets multiplied by the whole thing. So that's x times x gives me x squared, and x times negative 4 gives me negative 4x. Okay? So we only use the first terms to get the number on top, but in that multiplication step, we have to multiply x by the whole thing. Okay? Okay, and then step 3 was to do what? Subtract. So when I'm subtracting this whole thing, what actually happens? Yeah, we change the sign. So x squared becomes negative x squared, and 4x becomes plus 4x. And look at what happens here. What's x squared minus x squared? 0, which is what we want to happen. Okay, we're trying to get rid of that first term. What's x plus 4x? 5x. Okay. Now we're on step 4, so we take that negative 17 and bring it down. So it's going to be minus 17. Then we start the whole thing over again. Okay, so x times what is going to give me 5x? X times 5. So let's write positive 5, right? So we have to write plus 5. And we want to multiply that positive 5 by the whole thing. So 5 times x gives me 5x. And 5 times negative 4 gives me negative 20. So now we're on step 3, subtract. And subtracting changes the sign. So 5x becomes negative 5x. And minus 20 becomes positive 20. So when we're subtracting the polynomial, it changes the signs on the inside. So I just go ahead and change the signs. Is everybody comfortable with that, what I'm doing? I'm just distributing in the negative. Okay. And then we should get 5x minus 5x gives me 0, so it goes away. And negative 17 plus 20, what does that give me? 3. Is there anything else to bring down? No, so 3 is my remainder, and it's a positive 3. So it's going to be plus 3 over x minus 4. So how we write our answer is x plus 5 plus 3 over x minus 4. Okay? We cannot add 5 and 3 because obviously they don't have common denominators, right? So we just leave our answer like this with the remainder attached at the end. Okay? So please do not try and add 5 and 3. They do not have common denominators. Okay? This one's written a little bit differently. We have 3x squared minus 11x minus 26 all over x minus 5. This is actually what most of your division problems are going to look like, and then we have to put it in the division form. So which one goes on the outside? Good, the x minus 5. So let's rewrite it. X minus 5, division symbol. And then 3x squared minus 11x minus 26. Okay, so we're just going to be following the step by step again. So I'm looking at the first terms. X times what is going to give me 3x squared? X times 3x. Okay. So then I have to take that 3x and multiply it by the entire thing on the outside. So 3x times x gives me 3x squared. And then 3x times negative 5 gives me minus 15x. So I have to multiply that 3x by the entire divisor. Okay? And then I subtract, and subtracting just changes the sign. So this becomes a negative 3x squared, and negative 15x becomes positive 15x. Okay, 3x squared minus 3x squared turns into 0. Negative 11x plus 15x. That gives me 4x. Bring down the negative 26. And then we get to start all over again. X goes into 4x how many times? 4. So make sure you write plus 4, okay? Because we are working with polynomials. And then we multiply. 4 times x gives me 4x, and 4 times negative 5 gives me negative 20. Change the sign. So that becomes negative 4x plus 20. 4x minus 4x cancels, and negative 26 plus 20 turns into negative 6. Is there anything else for me to bring down? Nope. So we write minus 6 over x minus 5. So our answer is 3x plus 4 minus 6 over x minus 5. That's my answer. So example 3, we have x squared plus 5 over x plus 1. Okay guys, before you try to do this by yourselves, if you're trying to get ahead, will everybody please look at the problem and tell me if they see anything that's missing? Let me point your your attention directly to the top, the numerator. Is there anything missing in there? Yes. There's no x term, right? This is an x squared plus 5. So we're missing an x term right here. So there's no x term right there. Okay, this is actually going to throw us off in our division if we are missing a term. So whenever you're missing a term, and I want you to write it off to the side, you must put in a placeholder. Okay, so if you're ever missing a term, we have to put in a placeholder. And that just means if there are holes in your expression. So for example, on the bottom, we don't have an x squared, but does that make a difference? Is there a hole in what's already there? It doesn't make a difference. But up here in the numerator, we go from x squared straight to 5. There's no x, so there's a hole there. So what could we put in as a placeholder with x's in it that's not going to change the value of the whole thing? 1x? If I put in a 1x here, does that change the value of the numerator? It does. So what's something else we could put in? What can I add that won't change the value? 0. So how can I rewrite 0 but with x's? 0x. What's 0x? 0. So let's rewrite this but put in 0x in the middle. So that's going to be x plus 1 goes into x squared plus 0x plus 5. The only reason why we do this is so all of our like terms line up. Okay, so before you start looking at problems now, I want you to make sure to check that you don't have any missing terms. Because if you have a missing term and you don't put in a placeholder, your like terms won't line up, and you could end up combining terms that aren't actually like terms. Okay, so now let's start our division. X times what is going to give me x squared? X times x. So what's that going to give me underneath? X squared plus 1x. Oops. Okay, now what do I do? Distribute the negative. So that's going to make this negative and that guy negative. So what's x squared minus x squared? 0. What's 0x minus x? Negative x. Bring down the 5. Plus 5. The reason why I want you to write a placeholder is because if you didn't, you would most likely end up lining up the negative x with the 5 and then come here writing that we have a remainder of 4x. Okay, I've seen it so many times where we're missing a term, students don't put a placeholder, and then they end up combining terms that aren't like terms. Okay, and so then on your test I put a big circle and I write not like terms. Okay, so make sure that you first thing check if there are any holes or missing terms. Okay, so that way even if we put a placeholder, at least we're lining up 0x with x. Okay. Okay, so let's keep going. X times what is going to give me negative x? Negative 1, so minus 1. So that is going to give me negative x minus 1. And then I change the sign. So that becomes positive and that becomes positive. So negative x minus x gives me 0. And 5 plus 1 gives me 6. So this is plus 6 over x plus 1. So my answer would be x minus 1 plus 6 over x plus 1. And that's your answer. So example 4, we have 8x squared plus 34x minus 1 divided by 4x minus 1. So let's first set it up. Don't try doing it on your notes yet. What goes on the outside? 4x minus 1. Quick check of our terms. Am I missing any terms in either the divisor or the dividend? No, no missing terms. So let's first rewrite it. 4x minus 1 goes into 8x squared plus 34x minus 1. What I want you guys to do right now is try it by yourselves on your whiteboards and then we're going to do the work correctly in our notes. Okay, so in case you don't have the correct work, I don't want you to have it written in your notes, okay? So we're going to do the work on your whiteboard. I'll come around and do some quick checks, and then we'll finish it as a class actually in our notes, okay? Let's see. First step, I need to find 4 times what is going to give me 8x squared. So who's in 29? 8. What is 4x times what gives me 8x squared? Very good. So 4 times 2x. Okay. Do I multiply 2x by the whole thing or just by 4x? Who's in 13? What do I multiply 2x by? By 4x. That gives me 8x squared. Anything else? Very good. And the negative 1. So minus 2x. Okay, so I have 8x squared minus 2x. Then what? Who's in 10? Nigina. Then what? Very good. So when I subtract, what happens to all the signs? They change. So this becomes negative, and this becomes positive. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what is 8x squared minus 8x squared? 0. 34x plus 2x. 36x. Okay, next step. Nobody's in 41. 17. Who's 17? 14, 15, 16, 17. Guadalupe, next step.
Bring down the 1.
Perfect. Bring down the negative 1. So I have 36x minus 1. What next? Who's in 38? Peter, are you 38? 39. Lucky. Who's in 7? Nobody. 28. Okay, Christian, what next? We subtracted, brought down the negative 1. Perfect. So we have to figure out what 4x, when you multiply by 4x gives you 36x, and Christian said that was positive 9. So when I multiply positive 9, that's going to give me 36x minus 9. Now what? 11. Chris, now what?
Then you would switch the sign.
Perfect. I switch the sign. So that becomes negative, that becomes positive. Okay, everybody, let's see if everybody knows this time. What is 36x minus 36x?
0.
Good. What is negative 1 plus 9? Perfect. What do I do next? 39. Peter, now it's you.
Take the remainder and make it into a fraction.
Good. Take the remainder and make it into a fraction. So plus 8 over 4x minus 1. So my answer should be 2x plus 9 plus 8 over 4x minus 1. Good. I think almost everybody, when I was walking around, got that correct. So good job, guys. Okay, last one. Example 5. Now this is a little bit longer process than the last time. We have, you're going to do this on the whiteboards again. We have 6x to the third minus 5x squared plus 15x minus 5 divided by 2x squared minus x plus 3. Before I rewrite it, in the numerator, am I missing any terms? No. In the denominator, am I missing any terms? I have x squared, I have x, and then I have a number. So am I missing any? No, I'm not. So let's rewrite it first. 2x squared minus x plus 3 goes into 6x to the third minus 5x squared plus 15x minus 5. Okay, go ahead and start working on this on the whiteboard. I'm going to come around and check it in just a second. Alright, so what is the first thing I have to do? Who's in 5? Samuel, what's the first thing I have to do?
You have to find something that goes into 6x cubed.
Right.
And it would be 3x.
Good, 3x. So we multiply 3x by 2x squared, and what is that going to give me? Who's in 35? Josh, what's that going to give me? If I multiply 3x by the whole divisor.
Negative 6x cubed.
Wait, not the negative. You see that, right?
6x cubed.
Uh-huh.
Minus 3x squared.
Uh-huh.
Plus 9x.
Good, plus 9x. Okay, so then Josh started getting ahead of himself. What's my next step? Who's in 33? What's my next step? Subtract. So that makes this negative, that positive, and that guy negative, right? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, everybody help me out. 6x cubed minus 6x cubed. 0. Negative 5x squared plus 3x squared. Negative 2x squared. And then 15x minus 9x plus 6x. Okay, next step. Who's in 15? Perfect. Bring down the negative 5. Okay, so I brought down the negative 5. What's the next step? Who's in 30? Grayson, what's my next step?
Then take negative 1.
Mm-hmm. I multiply by negative 1. How do you know negative 1?
We're going to equal negative 2x and then you subtract it and you
Perfect. Because when I multiply negative 1 by 2x squared, it gives me negative 2x squared plus x minus 3. And then what do I want to do? Who's in 16? Mary, then what? So all I did was multiply right now. I changed the sign. So this becomes plus, minus, plus. So, ladies and gentlemen, negative 2x squared plus 2x squared.
0.
Thank you. 0. 6x minus x. 5x. And then negative 5 plus 3. Minus 2. Is there anything left to bring down? No. So this is my remainder. So my remainder is plus 5x minus 2 over 2x squared minus x plus 3. So let's write that all out a little less cramped. 3x minus 1 plus 5x minus 2 over 2x squared minus x plus 3. So basically, all the steps are exactly the same as long division that we learned in 3rd grade, but now we're applying it to polynomials. So there's a little bit more to have to worry about, but all the steps are exactly the same. Okay?